Pedro Grifol is no longer manager, but these are still tough days to be a White Sox fan. Let's explore the current and future state of White Sox fandom next on Locked On White Sox.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, I'm your host, Todd Welter, a lifelong Sox fan and the site expert of Southside Showdown, part of the Fansided Network. You can check out my written content at SouthsideShowdown.com. And also, I've covered Major League Baseball for outlets such as the Associated Press. And thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox. Also, follow or subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. And this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. All right, so you're seeing me here on YouTube if you're watching, or you're listening to me if you're listening on wherever you get your podcasts. But probably know right now I'm either on a plane headed to Florida or I'm somewhere roaming around Disney World because I'm on vacation. But before I took off for my trip, I recorded a series of interviews diving into the Sox fandom world. And first up is my conversation with former Locked On White Sox host and current CHGO White Sox podcast host, Sean Anderson. We discussed the current and future state of Sox fandom. Now, full disclosure, we recorded this a week before the All-Star break because of our schedules. So there's no mention of the Erick Fedde trade. There's no mention of the 21-game schedule or losing streak or Pedro being fired. And if you want Pedro Grifol fire talk, I recorded a bonus episode yesterday, and I did a crossover with Sully on Locked On MLB. Otherwise, I hope you enjoy the interview with Sean. All right, thanks for joining me, Sean. And let's just jump right into it. What do you think is the current state of being a White Sox fan for pretty much the majority of the fan base, the non-diehards?
The majority of the fan base is just not in touch, I would say. I think the majority of the fan base is pretty apathetic is the word I should use. I don't think most White Sox fans are paying attention to the White Sox. It's a sad state of affairs. How exciting. How are you, Todd?
Yeah, it's like everybody's apathetic. And then the trade deadline is passed, and now it's like, we're even more apathetic, that type of stuff. Let's just get into, how did you become a White Sox fan?
Yeah, I've told this before on Locked On White Sox, and I'm always afraid to tell it. I was a Cubs fan first. My favorite colors growing up were blue and red, and I was born on the 21st of a month. Sammy Sosa wore 21, and I don't know if you know about Sammy Sosa, Todd. He was very good at baseball. So it was very cool growing up in Chicago, being able to watch Sammy Sosa. But then I had like a moral thing as a 7-year-old when he corked his bat. I don't think I understood the whole steroid allegations around him, but I did understand that his cork bat was cheating. And then obviously 2003 was very tough for Cubs fans. And then 2004 was, they didn't even make it to the playoffs. Like that was just a real fall from grace. So I was like, I'm done with the Cubs. They're lovable losers. My dad was a Sox fan and he finally won me over. I went to my first Sox game in 2003. And of course, they got their butts kicked by Garrett Anderson and the Angels. I think it was like 11-2, if I remember correctly. And they hooked me ever since. So because the other team in town was losing, I went to the other team who I think might be more losers. I mean, like 8% of their seasons have gone to the postseason. So I was a Cubs fan first, and here I am. Now I'm a Sox fan.
Yeah, but you at least got the World Series right away. It sounds like you didn't have to suffer as much as like, for example, someone like me who, when I was around your age, I'm about, I think, 20 years older than you. As I said, like my first Sox conscious memory was 1989. I was 7 years old, and that's when they were like dead last. I watched Steve Rosenberg throw. So at least you didn't have to suffer as much. Now you're suffering though, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, and that's a great point. I mean, that's kind of why they hooked me, was because my first season, they win a World Series. Tough to walk away from a team after that, right? And it's tough not to be in love with Mark Burley. It's tough not to be in love with John Garland. I have the 2005 World Series bobblehead with him holding it up. Juan Uribe. I mean, we can go through and just name the entire roster if we want to. So yeah, I mean, the first year was great. And I think, I don't know. it's tough because I think my relationship with baseball has changed so much because I was 8 when they won the World Series and now I'm 20, I'm going to be 27 in August. So I think I've gone away from being a diehard attached to every single game and every single moment and just enjoying baseball because I really do miss when baseball is not around. So the fact that I can just enjoy baseball season, it is a laughable season. So there it is easy to find humor this year. I think it's probably tougher to find humor in the 81 and 81 White Sox or the team that just completely fell flat in 2023, where they go 61 and 100. We kind of understood that they'd be bad, not this bad, but being this bad is kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask you, what is the difference between, the team disappointing in 2022 and 2023 and this year? But obviously, it's clearly like it's just so comical right now, where like you've got a manager that was defending a catcher that they DFA'd eventually. Like, all that. You just can't write this stuff. Where in 2022 and 2023, it was like, this is so frustrating. But would you categorize it right now, being a Sox fan, as being fun bad or embarrassingly bad?
I would say it's embarrassingly bad. I had a fun bad category at the midseason. I gave out the fun bad game of the year, and I gave it to the Michael Kopech immaculate inning game because you also got a Luis Robert Jr. home run in that. It was a fairly tight game. The White Sox played some clean baseball. Like that was a fun bad win. I would say fun bad would involve me liking the players. And we haven't seen a ton of Luis Robert Jr. Garrett Crochet was very fun for a while, but it had its moment. So I what was the question again? I'm sorry, Todd.
I was just saying, is it embarrassingly bad or fun bad? And then just a quick side note for everybody: we're recording this before the trade deadline. As you know, I'm right now currently in Disney World, probably sweating my what off. And Sean is probably hosting a great episode of CHGO.
Thanks for bailing me out there, Todd. So that's why I brought up Luis Robert Jr. and Garrett Crochet. Kind of choked on my tongue there, because if they do trade him, I feel like it will be extremely stamp it embarrassingly bad. Maybe it'll be a little bit more fun bad if we do get to watch Garrett Crochet still develop, if we do get to still watch Luis Robert Jr. play in a White Sox uniform. But if this is coming out on August 5th and, White Sox fans are listening to this and Garrett Crochet's in the NL and, Seattle Mariners are enjoying Luis Robert Jr., I think most people will be pretty sick to their stomach and embarrassed to be a White Sox fan.
Now, I just want to rewind a little bit back. You said your dad was a White Sox fan. It seems like a lot of fathers eventually impart fandom in the Chicago area. Like, is your dad still a fan? Like, how is that relationship with you and your dad and the White Sox? Or is he still with us? I don't.
Yeah, he's still with us. Yeah, no, my dad just turned 50, so shout out to John. I don't know. We were like really into baseball, I think, and he was more into baseball when I was playing baseball. So I think the less that I played baseball, the less that we had like a relationship around baseball. And now that I do this show, I think I could definitely tell that like I like baseball, and I don't know if he likes baseball like that. So it's funny that like he is the person that I think was a Sox fan in my life that imparted that on me. But I don't know if it was specifically him that really kind of grew that relationship, because it's there. We talk about it when it comes up with my job, but like it's not a huge thing. So that's kind of a lackluster answer. My bad.
Oh no, that makes sense. I mean, the funny thing is, like, my jaw dropped to the floor when my dad found out I was doing this, that I took this over, because he's like, "Sox are awful, Todd." I'm like, "You're the one that got me into this team. Like, you're the one that had the season tickets, that told me you got to be a diehard." And we grew up in northwest suburbs of Chicago in McHenry County, and yet here I am, a White Sox fan, and I feel like a fish out of water every time I go back home, because it's like I have 3 friends that I grew up with that were White Sox fans. How much of a challenge is it to talk about this historically awful team every day?
It definitely has its challenges. I shouldn't act like it doesn't, because there are times where they get shut out for the 11th time and swept for the 12th time or whatever it is, and you really can't say anything nice about the team. And people try to enjoy baseball as a hobby, and I don't think most people's hobbies aren't sticking their hand into like a basket of nails, or a bucket of nails. Like there are definitely some people out there that enjoy some pain, but I don't know to this level. And I think that's why we go back to apathetic. But talking about it's not too bad because, the players show up every day and they are trying. So whether they're trying and they're this bad, again, that's kind of funny. That they're this bad, they're historically this bad. But it mainly just wants to bring out all the anger from what was promised. And I see tweets where it's like, you look at the prospects now and it's like Noah Schultz, recent draftee Hagen Smith, Colson Montgomery, Brian Ramos, Jacob Gonzalez. Like, people are really excited about this next crop. I know you said you watch more Birmingham Barons baseball than White Sox baseball, or you enjoy it at least more. We got Brooks Baldwin up in the major leagues now. It's people are like, well, we were promised Kopech, Moncada, Aloy, and you look at that crop and there's not a huge failure. Like, people can look at Blake Rutherford and like there was a failure there. Like, he didn't make it, Basabe. Basabe didn't make it. But like Dane Dunning got Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn was a part of a AL Central championship team. And I feel like I need to at least try to appreciate that a little bit more, because as a White Sox fan, that's all we want right now. If this 2024 team or the 2025 team won an AL Central championship, no one's complaining. And I feel like that's the thing that we have to look at is like, the rebuild did fail, but it failed in a lot of just sad ways. Like, the guys just didn't play. I don't know if they're not good baseball players, because Yohan Moncada, he's probably going to get a contract after this year, and he didn't play much, right? Like, there's still a good baseball player in there. Michael Kopech's going to be picked up on on a different team to be resalvaged. Dane Dunning is enjoying a nice career in Texas. Like, the players that they picked out weren't bad. Like, they didn't fail. They just weren't great. And the one that, could be great is Robert. And they just didn't capitalize on his greatness. And it's just kind of similar to Mike Trout. I mean, do Angels fans regret not having Mike Trout or Shohei Ohtani? Like, I think you just have to kind of, at least at this part where you are so far away from it, you have to enjoy that. So, looking back, like, I'm just trying to talk about how to talk about this team. You want to try to be able to put in moments like what happened this year. So if it is historically bad, people can look back and see how historically bad it was. And if that 2021 team was historically great and we didn't really realize it because we were promised more and we're looking for more, we have to encapsulate that and just being like, oh, wow, that was the last time we won the AL Central since 2008.
All right, we're going to take a quick pause here. We'll come back with Sean and I talking about how it feels like 2021 was a lifetime ago. Next on Locked On White Sox. All right, so the only way I can get my daughter and wife to go to a ball game is if I buy them that ice cream of the future that they love so much, but sometimes they still get thirsty, and next time I'm going to suggest Liquid IV. When taking in America's pastime, don't forget to hydrate with Liquid IV's Popsicle Firecracker flavor, a surefire summer hit. Get hydrated with electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients from the #1 powdered hydration brand in America. Because baseball and summer go together like with Liquid IV and indulgent hydration. I'm getting ready. I'm on my way now to Florida if you're listening to this, and it's going to be humid, and you best believe I've packed some Liquid IV to stay hydrated. Blast off with the iconic summer flavor of the Popsicle Firecracker, a festive blend of citrus-fueled lemon lime, tart cherry, and raspberry flavors. Tear, pour, live more. One stick plus 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. 3 times the electrolytes of leading sports drinks, 8 essential vitamins and nutrients. No more thirsty summers when you indulge in hydration with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code MLB at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using code MLB at liquidiv.com. And passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance: superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 million parts for your #1 ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit only, available to U.S. customers. And thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen today. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On MLB podcast. Host Paul Sullivan, aka Sully, is here daily to provide national expertise with his trademark humor to help you get ready for the MLB playoffs here in the dog days of summer. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it all covered every single day on Locked On MLB, available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And the White Sox start a 2-game series tonight with their crosstown rival, the Chicago Cubs. First pitch is at 7:10 p.m. Central. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. Welcome back to Locked On White Sox. I am your host, Todd Welter. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox, and also follow or subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. So let's jump back into my conversation about the current and future state of Sox fandom with Sean Anderson of CHGO. Do you think the promise of everything, we were supposed to have more? Ask me after the parade, how many, 3 or 4 championships really? Is that probably the reason why it feels like everything seems like a lifetime ago? Because we're talking about 3 years ago. And this seems like, it feels like it's back in, like, for me, it feels like this is 1995 we're talking about. Like, just, that ball landing in that Iowa cornfield when Tim Anderson hit it feels to me like it's 30 years ago. I mean, do you think that promise that we were supposed to have a lot of championships has made it feel like a lifetime ago?
I think you're just thinking that it was a lifetime ago, Todd, because they wore those uniforms. They were just really sold that they were ghosts playing baseball. No, I get that feeling. And I don't know. I mean, not to get too political or like serious again, but I think that might have just been like a pandemic thing. Like, it really does feel like time stopped having a true meaning, around 2020 and after. So it does really feel like, that happiness was so far in advance. And it feels like I probably need to talk to a psychologist about that. It's probably better off to pay someone to examine why does that feel so far away?
And a pen, so I can start writing down.
Where do I sign the checks to? Is it just Todd Welter?
Yeah.
It does feel like a lifetime ago. And it really does feel like, even that Luis Robert Jr., like that Luis Robert Jr. just feels completely different than the 2024 Luis Robert Jr. And he's not even 30 yet. Like, that's a crazy part. I mean, like, he's got so much potential.
So should a Sox fan have a backup team? Would you recommend that to somebody?
I don't know. I enjoy baseball, so I don't really care who I'm watching. If I'm putting on a West Coast game and it's the Astros and Mariners, cool. I just enjoy baseball, so I don't have a backup team. Baseball, it seems tougher to have like a player to like or a team or backup team to like, because it's every single day. And it's like, after watching 3 hours of baseball, I don't know if I want to watch 3 more hours of baseball. But like with the NFL, I think it's a lot easier because it's like, oh, well, my team plays at 12. I'll watch a team at 3. And usually like the Patriots were on at 3 or, at prime time. So it was very easy to be like a Bears Patriots fan. I don't know if the MLB lends itself to that, which is why I think, when the White Sox are really good, this fan base is, top 5 in all of baseball. But the fact that we can get so attached and then so detached is a part of just this lifelong 125-year history of there was 2005.
Yep.
About it.
I was told, trust me, I've been told I think it was like in 2010, a couple of my Cubs fans buddies were like, dude, you got to let 2005 go. I'm like, well, you know what? You guys have nothing. And then 2016 happened and it was like, yeah, I got to let it go. Gosh darn it.
And I got coworkers who every time they mention 2016, they act like, oh, 2016, what happened in 2016? And then they're like, oh, well, the 2016 Chicago Cubs won the World Series in Game 7 in Cleveland. There was a rain delay and Ben Zobrist scored the game-winning run, or drove in the game-winning run, whatever. Like, they just play stupid about it because who doesn't want to relive the best moments of your fandom? You want to name all 26 men on the 2005 roster? We'll do it, Todd, right here, right now.
Oh, I know. And now, would you say that that's your favorite Sox memory, them winning the World Series, or do you have a different favorite Sox memory?
Maybe I should have brought this up when you asked me about my dad. I was at the perfect game with him. So, I mean, that is by far the best baseball memory I had because, there was the time of being in 2005, but that's spread out over, 3 weeks of baseball, and it's kind of tough to just live in the moment. I was at 8 innings of perfect game. We rolled in, I think, after the first inning. So I saw the scoreboard and was like, "Hey, Dad, we're going to see a perfect game." I wasn't calling it. I was just joking. And here we are in the ninth inning, and I'm hyperventilating into a Dippin' Dots bag, just waiting for the final 2 outs after Dwayne Wise makes the catch. So yeah, it's I think that's the moment of my White Sox fandom, just because at the time there was, I think, 27 of them in Major League Baseball history, and just to be in that park at that time was crazy. It's like the Kerry Wood game. I think if a Cubs fan was at the Kerry Wood game and Game 7 of the or maybe like Game 5 of the NLDS in 2016, like it was a part of that run, but I think being a part of a singular moment is a little bit more impactful.
All right, so that actually tops mine, especially with a father-son, and I'm not trying to make it about me or whatever, but it reminded me. So like one of my favorite memories is I was actually in the stands. I was, I think, 6 or 7 years old when Andy Hawkins threw 8 innings of no-hit ball against the Sox and lost. He lost 4-0. That's the Andy Hawkins game. I don't know if you ever heard of that legend.
Yeah, I think you and Chris Tannehill are the two people that I know that have been at the Andy Hawkins game.
And the funny thing is that bat, I believe, was the giveaway behind them.
Really?
Yeah, you could
They
get
gave away a whole bat?
Yeah, that's a whole bat. They actually gave away bats. So I remember that. And I went with my grandpa and my dad. And my grandpa, see, he was the reverse, where he was a Sox fan, and he believed, though, that television should be free. So when the Sox went to cable, he swore off the Sox and became a Cubs fan. So that was always our thing, was Cubs Sox. So, we have seen people go from Sox to Cubs to Sox, all that type of stuff. But yeah,
I respect the hell out of your grandpa for that. TV should be free, and that is a great way to be. I'm very for what your grandpa did there. Is it a plastic bat? It's a real Louisville slug.
That's a real Louisville Slugger that they gave out in 1990, crazy. Last year of Comiskey Park.
That's insane.
And a preview of that, I'm actually talking with the producers of Last Comiskey during the series too, so they'll be on the next show on that. So what's your most painful White Sox memory? And it can't include this season, because watching White Sox baseball this year has been, I think I've Twitter messaged you how painful some of these games have been.
Yeah, that's tough. In a way, I am really attached to Mark Burley. So I think some people might say it's when Frank Thomas was let go by the team, and Kenny Williams, basically just disrespects Frank Thomas by saying, stay out of White Sox business. We don't want you. And I understand. I mean, hey, Jim Thome was great. I'm not saying, they made the wrong baseball move, but it's tough not to be upset that Burley just wasn't a White Sox his whole career, having to go to Miami, hating it, and then, at least enjoying Toronto, and then especially being so close to that one record. I feel like the White Sox would have done everything in their power for him to get that record. But I think 2020 might be the toughest, because we were better than Oakland, and I really wonder what that team could have been like if they get past that. And along with it too, I really felt like Ricky was building some steam, and I understand the move to get somebody that has experience, maybe just not that person for the reason that they want that experience and the trauma bond that Jerry Reinsdorf and Tony La Russa have. So I would say that in hindsight, it's probably Game 3 where Liam, of course, closes us out. It should have been our moment, and it was really downhill from the start of it with the injury.
Well, and especially in Game 1, I mean, Lucas Giolito just absolutely dominates them, and you're thinking, okay, here we go. And honestly, what was it? Crochet that has the injury. That just, I mean, that showed when Renteria, that's when I was like, okay, I get the move, because it was like he had no backup plan. He had nothing. And then it was like, okay, we're going to get AJ Hinch. And no, we're not. You're going to get Tony La Russa and like it. So let's talk about the future state. What can the Sox do outside of winning to start getting getting the fans back? Is it maybe getting some draws? Maybe actually Jerry finally apologizing to the fan base? What do you think can get people back from being apathetic?
I don't know how much you could actually take an apology from Jerry Reinsdorf at face value. Especially I'm assuming that your grandfather's no longer with us, but now with Jerry Reinsdorf building a new exclusive cable company, I think that he would probably be swearing at Jerry Reinsdorf as well. I don't know, because I think my answer isn't respectful, but he laid out a very clear way in way the White Sox would change to Crane's Chicago business this year, talking about what the White Sox will look like after he passes. And I mean, I don't think that at 88, Jerry Reinsdorf is going to have a come to light moment and realize, how he's mistreated fans. I think that he is a, capitalistic American. He is a very proud business owner, and he's done a very good job at owning the Chicago White Sox and the Bulls from a capitalistic perspective. But I don't know. I think like the only thing that truly I think can make fans happy is if like they had the Green Bay model where, fans were a part of ownership and fans could take a part of it. And maybe like the team had the city had the ownership of the actual team. Cause I think even, looking back where he threatens to move to Tampa, it's tough to trust a person like that because, I think the Nashville stuff was in good heart. I think meeting with the Nashville mayor was in good heart because I think that he was doing that on behalf of Dave Stewart, who's a friend of Tony La Russa. I don't think that's him scouting for a new place to move to become the Nashville White Sox. But I don't think that there's much he can do. And I think the only thing that a Jerry Reinsdorf owned White Sox team can do to gain back fans is win. And, it seems like they want to do it as fast as possible. But I mean, when you want to build a house as fast as possible, is the inspector going to like that? And what are going to be the cracks, and what is going to ultimately cause this team to fail? And is it going to be similar to what just happened with the team? Because you had that high of 2021 and the AL Central Championship, but in 2022, it was supposed to be more. In 2023, it was supposed to be more. And 2024, it was supposed to be more. And now we sit here with a team that, again, at the All-Star break had 71 losses.
I think one way, and it's just a pipe dream, but I think if you just spend money and just go out and sign Juan Soto, just actually go get in the
don't hate it.
Yeah. You want a new stadium. You want all this stuff. You want people to pay for it. Go get Juan Soto. Go get a generational talent. That's probably the only other way besides winning that you could say, oh, hey, we're serious, instead of laughing at the idea. And I'm just, comparing in the hypothetical, but laughing at the idea. I mean, think about it. The owner laughed at the idea of Shohei Ohtani, not because Shohei Ohtani would say, no way. It's, I don't want to spend the money for a guy like that. Like, why would you not even consider picking up the phone?
Well, I mean, even then, though, I mean, they had meetings with Machado and Harper, and you look at those deals, and especially the Harper one, because he's just a better player. Mm-hmm. They didn't make an offer to Harper too. They were in on the wrong player. They made offers to Machado, but obviously were $25 million less. But with Harper, you look at that 330, and now Harper's looking at that and saying he wants to renegotiate because his salary is like $20 million a year, and it doesn't line up to what other major league stars are being paid. And it's similar to watching a real estate show where they're like, part of the reason they're selling somebody on a price that's, $90 million is because in, 5 years, it'll be $110 million. Right. And it's like, I just, if you're going to spend money, I feel like he missed his boat, because there's no way he's going to sign a player to with a number of, 400 million where Soto's going to be, and Harper was at 330. I mean, you're not even going over 100 million. Let alone 400 million. So if he signs Juan Soto, I'll shut up.
Yeah, but I doubt it's going to happen.
No, I doubt it's going to happen, Todd.
Yeah, and I want to preface that before the people put in the comments, there's no way they're signing Juan Soto. I know that, but I'm just making an example of That's another way besides winning, because obviously winning cures all. All right, let's take another quick time out here, but after the break, Sean and we discussed if there's a chance the team could move to Nashville. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports, and unlike other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the PrizePicks community today. With PrizePicks, you can turn $10 into $1,000 while watching Team USA rack up gold medals this summer. You can make a PrizePicks lineup of players across basketball, soccer, tennis, golf, and more in as little as 60 seconds. Just pick more or less in 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you're locked in. That's how easy it is to play PrizePicks. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch those winnings roll in. PrizePicks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including Illinois, Wisconsin, and Indiana. college buddy on that text chain loves how he can play Prize Picks living behind the cheddar curtain. I think it's great for how simple of a concept it is to play. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. And the White Sox start a 2-game series tonight against their crosstown rival, the Chicago Cubs. First pitch is at 7:10 p.m. Central. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. Welcome back into Lockdown White Sox. I am your host, Todd Welter. Shout out to all my everydayers there that have stuck through me this far, and hopefully you're enjoying the interview that I did with Sean Anderson. As again, I'm on vacation. Again, full disclosure, Sean and I, our schedules matched up where we were only able to record before the All-Star break. So if you're wondering, like, why is there no talk of the trade deadline? Why is there no talk of the 21-game losing streak? Why is there no talk of Pedro being fired? It's because we did record this before the All-Star break. So let's get back into my interview with Sean Anderson. Do you think this team is in danger of being moved once Jerry leaves this world and they potentially sell? Because I've put it that there's a possibility, just because you do have somebody that would be like, well, I'll have the market to myself, that type of stuff.
Yeah. From my judgment, I think, again, going back to that Cranes article where Jerry spoke to that outlet, it seems like he has an idea of who would buy the franchise once he's not, or no longer, the main shareholder. And the interesting thing with the White Sox is, I think Jerry Reinsdorf owns around 17%. So my idea is that the person that would take over for Jerry Reinsdorf is already in the building. And since we don't know the exact percentages that people own, I don't think we know that person. But if I had to guess, I think the person's the call's coming from inside the house. But I think that's a good thing for Sox fans. I think he's trying to leverage his power and his stature in Illinois as a businessman to try to get that new stadium. So then again, there doesn't have to be that question down the road, because if that stadium's built, they're the Chicago White Sox, I think, probably forever. I think if they don't build the stadium, though, it's like 95% that they stay in Chicago. I really don't see the point of them leaving Chicago, because you look out west, there's so many markets that they could put teams, especially with an expansion team. And if they're going to go to Nashville, I think making one more team makes sense. And what are they going to do with Oakland? I mean, Oakland doesn't have a home right now. I know that they're going to play in Sacramento, but I mean, it's like 100 during day games in Sacramento. Like, it's just not feasibly possible to play in that sun. So I don't even think Sacramento is going to end up happening. So, and they want to go to Vegas. So it seems like expansion's more possible than the White Sox leaving. That helps.
Yeah, no, and I think it was Jim Margulis. He was on the score saying, because I live in Nashville. Nashville's not going to give, at least the Nashville mayor, he's not going to be giving public subsidies to anybody, right, any Tennessee teams. And it sounds like Nashville is heck bent on getting an expansion team, just like Salt Lake. They want to create an organic instead of bringing a team in, from what I sound like. And I'm not trying to sound Pollyannish, but as everybody says, well, you don't have to share the market. Okay, you're still going to be leaving, even if you're splitting this market. Say you do reach up to where it's 50-50, you're splitting what, 3 million in a metro area of 10 million. Why would you leave for, say, Nashville, which would be basically their metro area, if I understand it? Isn't it like the population of the Chicagoland area total? Then if I remember, or it's like
for Salt Lake?
Or no, I'm talking about Nashville. Like,
okay,
they would be taking a step down in market and in terms of population too. So like, that's what I'm just saying. Like,
yeah, Nashville's like 700,000,
yeah,
I think.
Yeah, so you'd be basically like, okay, you don't have to share. Like, great, you can go to Milwaukee, for example, like when they were going to go to Milwaukee back in the day, but it's still a smaller market. So that's why I think I agree with you. It's like, it's out there. There's the leverage, but I just don't see them moving.
Yeah, and again, Jerry's selling point of, fans don't want to come to Guaranteed Rate Field, like, that's just not true. I mean, if the team was winning, people would be going. We've seen that happen. If you are putting an investment into the team and the team is successful, people are going to be there. And I think that he wants this sort of, Cubs effect where, people are there all the time. And I think that's part of just, goodwill built up, and then people get a payoff of 108 years and not 88 years. And I know that's, it's still, both of them are very long times, but again, like that was 108 years long. I mean, that bonded people together 20 years past the White Sox winning the World Series. So I think it's difficult to create what the Cubs have because it's just a different monster. But the White Sox can be their own monster. I mean, this is one of the most popular baseball logos in all of the world. So, I mean, they can sell this team to the, 12.1 million people that aren't here in Chicago that are at a Cubs game, right? I mean, like there's 30,000 people there. There could be 30,000 people at the Guaranteed Rate Field. I mean, this is a huge city.
And there used to be when Guaranteed Rate Field first opened, it was always constantly, filled with people. So I agree with you. And not only that, like, I just think it does come down to ownership. You build the brand. The Cubs built a brand. They got lucky with WGN when the Sox moved off, but they used WGN, like you said, and they used all that nostalgia and all that, and they built a brand. The Sox have just never been great at building a brand. Are you hopeful things will get better?
I think you have to be. I think as a person, you just have to be. I think it will get better when Jerry Reinsdorf's not the owner. And I think we saw this with the switch from Hahn to Getz. People could just kind of take their guard down because they want something to happen. Something happens, so they can take their guard down. If Jerry Reinsdorf isn't the owner, I think people can take their guard down and at least give the opportunity to a new owner to make their mark on Chicago. So if it is a rough first year, I think people would be lenient because, hey, we do have a new flow or we do have a new person and it is not Jerry Reinsdorf. So we take that, we'll count our blessings. And then, hey, maybe into year 5, this person's really hitting their stride as an owner. So I think there is hope just because Jerry Reinsdorf is very, very old.
But he plans on living another 10 years.
He's going to be at the 100th All-Star game. You know it because they're going to hold that in Chicago. He wants it to be at the 78. That man is going to take whatever drugs he can to stay until he's here in 1930 or 2033.
Oh yeah, and oh my God, I'll be 51. I'm just going to be cool.
He'll be 100.
Oh dear Lord, that man will have been a part of my life for 51 years. I mean that's the other thing. Like, yeah. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are like, well, he's been a part of my life for this, this, and this. I mean, it's just been nothing but misery and pain. Sean, thank you for joining me to commiserate about being a White Sox fan, giving us a current insight on the current and future state of being a White Sox fan. I really appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Todd. And I'm very sorry to the people of Locked On White Sox that in my return, I was so depressing to listen to. But next time I'll join you, Todd. We'll name all 26 men from the 2005 roster. All right.
Oh, yeah, we're going to do it. All right. That wraps up this edition of Locked On White Sox. And thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen today. Now go check out the Locked On MLB podcast. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it all covered every single day. And you can find the link to Locked On MLB in the description. So you don't need to search. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'll be back tomorrow, or I'll be back Monday as we discuss, as we continue. All right, this wraps up this edition of Locked On White Sox. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen today. Now go check out the Locked On MLB podcast. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it all covered every single day. You can find the link to Locked On MLB in the description, so you don't need to search. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'll be back Monday as I want to continue this fan series. I spoke with Matt Fletch, the producer of Last Comiskey. It's a great documentary, 3 episodes on YouTube that you should check out. Him and we're going to talk about the greatness of Old Comiskey Park and basically retro fandom. And also feel free to leave comments about the interview I had with Sean Anderson about the current and future state of Sox fandom. You can leave them at the episode page on YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, at Todd J. Dub or at Locked On Sox, or email me at lockedonwhitesox@gmail.com. And have a great day. The series continues on Monday.